Sarvo Upanishad Gavo Dogda Gopalanandana Parthavatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat. All the Upanishadic literature are like the cow. The milker is Krishna, the cowherd boy. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers of the milk. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Bhagavad Gita. We are on the second chapter, on the 66th verse. Uh, 199. Got it. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kutas sukham. Here we have been following the disciplines meant to attain wisdom, as well as the characteristics of a person who has already attained wisdom. And by following some of those characteristics, we can understand what our spiritual practices ought to be. So here, the Lord says, no, asti is buddhi. Now, buddhi is intelligence, the intellect. Since this section deals with wisdom, many commentators have translated the word as wisdom. So there is no wisdom. There is no wisdom. Well, but then saying, for a person who is fickle-minded, there is no wisdom in the fickle-minded. Nor is there meditation. To the unmeditative, there is no peace. And how can the peaceless enjoy happiness? How can one who has no peace enjoy happiness? You see, the human species, not only human species, all living beings, they seek happiness. Obviously, by avoiding pain. So that's a state which is kind of welcome. Everybody wants it. From the highest to the lowest, everybody wants happiness. There is no doubt, this is the state of mind which is, you can say, conducive to human development, human wisdom. When the body and the mind is racked with pain, you cannot think of higher thoughts. It's just impossible. So, and then we know happiness, we are somehow kind of oriented towards it. We are not pain-seeking. The people who kind of inflict pain on themselves and on others, we know what they are called. So they're saying this is a mental kind of aberration. These people are not normal. But happiness, everybody is seeking happiness? Oh yes, perfectly okay. It's all right. And the wise people, they all say the same thing. Do you think that all the wise people say, go for wars, rob, steal, kill, become corrupt? No. They are looking at a higher dimension of the human mind. So everywhere, it's like, no, there is no wisdom in a fickle mind, in a mind that's restless. Obviously. Because in all the world scriptures and in all worlds, not even the scriptures, in all the other literature also, you have really wise counsel given. And they are speaking the same language, that you have to transcend certain limitations of your own making, and then limitations imposed by nature, and then you start understanding things clearly. There's a clarity coming in what you see and what you hear and what you think. So that's the reason why they're saying there is no wisdom in a fickle mind. A fickle mind, in the sense, the word uses ayuktasya for a non-yogi, or for a person who has got no control over himself or herself. Now, how does that come? The road to wisdom comes through controlling yourself, not letting yourself go. Because we have seen what happens to society and the world when you just let yourself go. Society first puts a kind of restrictions. Certain restrictions are inevitable when we live in a society, in a community. It's inevitable. I don't have to hurt that person's feelings, so I don't say those things. Or I don't, it's, when I live at home, I must be careful not to kind of hurt other people around me. So your people and society and social laws, written and unwritten, have a kind of a controlling effect on our impulses. But there are people who do things under the scanner, and then they let themselves loose. Enough of this bondage. Why bondage? It was not kind of freedom at all. It was license. You wanted license to do things what you wanted to do without anybody prying into your business. Oh, that's my business. To go and rob and kill and steal, that's my business. Well, it can be your business. But here the yogi, the person who wants wisdom, he will or she will make a deliberate effort in controlling oneself. That is a yukta. That is one who is kind of yoked. It comes from the old word yuj, from where the English word yoke also has come, and from where the word yoga also has come. So the person has a kind of he or she has restrained oneself and not letting go. What happens in this case is there is a development of your own power. Your willpower develops first. Morality is established, which is important. For a licentious person, you cannot speak about morality to. No, it's not. What are you talking about? I eat, drink, and I am merry. Yeah, for a while. You see what happens. Then the reactions come. And the reactions can't be stopped by any prayers or anything. Why do you think people are miserable? Well, if you see what happened was they had done a few things uncontrollably. And now they're paying for it. But yet we don't kind of put our kind of restraints on ourselves. No. There is a necessity of willpower developing in ourselves, because that is what is going to lead us higher and higher. And so some commentators say there is no wisdom for a person who is unrestrained, whose mind is kind of restless. Wisdom of what? Wisdom? Wisdom of this? Wisdom of the self, of the Atman. Not this and this and this and this. Later on you will have this knowledge spontaneously. Once you know the self, you will know the secrets of the universe. So you don't have to waste your time with these things. Oh, he's speaking about this cup and this mic. A very wise person. That's not wisdom. That's just information. So there is the self and wisdom of the self. And how does it come about? By hearing and by reflection. Shravana and Manana. You listen to that. It kind of goes inside, settles in, and then it forms a kind of a network in the subconscious mind. And it pushes away all other small or large or whatever beliefs that it is actually fighting against your old beliefs. This knowledge of the self that you have been hearing and you hear push against all your old conceptions of what spirituality is. The other day we were talking about something kind of impressions in the mind. So somebody said, well, then there are male and female impressions. I said, no. Why do you look at these impressions from the standpoint of your body? Look at this from the standpoint of the soul. There is no gender. Deep down, experiences are gender neutral. And when they have to fructify, to come out and manifest, they may take this body or that body or whatever. But the impressions, the deep-seated impressions, they don't have any kind of gender out there. So then say, oh, we were under the impression that we have female impressions and then we have female, then we'll have a female body. I said, no, you don't have to believe all that, all the stupid things. Why? Because in the soul, first, there is no sex, no gender there. And when certain impressions, they're saying there is something called the very deep-seated impressions called the vasanas. It is that which gives rise to bodies, future bodies. And there are no kind of, just experiences. On that level, you don't consider yourself male or female. There, no. So this is one example of how the knowledge of the self pushes away old systems of belief about yourself, about the world, because we have grown up in a culture that tells you the world is like this, and it has kind of filled in the blanks with sometimes stupid things also. Mainly stupid things. Beliefs. Wow, beliefs. Oh, these are my beliefs. These are your beliefs. Beliefs, the religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs and this and that. And the knowledge of this self keeps on pushing all those old beliefs out. Why? Because this is the reality now. And those things were not based on reality, based on traditions, based on preachers, based on, all these kind of things that you have picked up over the years. It is those that make the mind kind of clogged inside, does not let the knowledge of the self manifest. And then they say, na cha ayuktasya bhavana. And for the fickle-minded, nor is there meditation in that person. So after hearing and reflecting on the knowledge of the self, one the person meditates deeply. It is kind of thinking very deeply. That is kind of real meditation. Thinking on it deeply. So when the person is supposed to do this, hear about the Atman, reflect on it, remove of all these silly kind of cultural baggage that you're carrying, and then plunge in, meditate. That's what the whole thing is. If the mind is steady, but if the mind isn't steady, then what happens is, for this person, to the unmeditative, there is no peace. This is another thing, that happiness, we want happiness, and this happiness, why? Yeah, happiness will either give us peace, or happiness and peace are kind of the same. Yeah, happiness, yes. Where there is happiness, there is peace. Where there is kind of, actually happiness kind of will lead you to peace. Now, peace has been spoken of at various levels. In this context here, peace means upashama, that is withdrawal of the senses. Like in the previous few verses we had said, like a tortoise withdraws its limbs inside, and you can try to bang it, hit it, try to cut it, it's not going to bring its limbs out. It has retracted. So this retraction of your senses, your sensory system, but then what do I do if I retract everything? Saying, yeah, you try to do that and you see what happens. In fact, all our biases, all the things that cloud our kind of perception, they first go away. Yes, controlling the senses. I remember one time I was talking to a Swami, the great Swami, and I kind of adored him. He's no more. So he was my teacher also, one of my teachers. So some of the other novices, they come saying, we are kind of rehearsing a song. Can you come and just tell us where exactly we are kind of making mistakes or going wrong? And they were in the next kind of building, and they were rehearsing behind closed doors. The Indian music, with all this drums and all the harmonium and this, that, and all. Saying, no, you all go there. I'll tell you after you have finished your rehearsal. Saying, but you're here, you're quite far away from what the real kind of the sound will come clearly to you. No, you don't have to worry about that. And we kept on talking, and at the back of my kind of mind, I also can hear that my friends are rehearsing. After they have rehearsed and we are talking about various things, they come. And then the Swami says, see, this is the place you went wrong, this is where, this is high. And I said, we were engaged in a conversation, and you had kind of divided your mind into two, listening to that and listening carefully. Saying, yeah, this happens when you have controlled your nervous system and your sensory system. So I was, wow. I said, how? So the senses become purified. That's what. That is what happens. So for such a person, when the senses have been purified, that person attains peace. The senses are now under that person's control. They've kind of, the The reins are in the person's hand. You're not letting the horses run away. So that person can guide the horses where the person wants to go, not where the horses want to go. So generally the horses are taking us where they want to go. And we say, then you fall into a ditch and saying, oh, that's okay. It's okay. If I'm getting a kind of a free ride, so now and then I can get into a ditch, no problem. That's it. And we'll bring out big philosophies. Pain is inevitable in life, and then we'll quote the scriptures, and then we'll throw flowers and holy water and read all these things and kind of trying to comfort us. So the withdrawal, upashama, of the person when the person is established, meditating. And if the person doesn't do that, the person is fickle-minded, there's no meditation, and when there's no meditation, the senses are unruly, uncontrolled, then what happens? That person does not have peace, and when that person does not have peace, what happens is, where is happiness for that person? He's saying, how can the person without peace enjoy happiness? So real happiness is there within us. Everybody knows, everyone knows this fact. But the duty or the responsibility, the effort to get to that is not there. This is the way you could do it. You want happiness? You want peace? Here it is. So what happiness is this the Lord speaking about? The happiness of being liberated from the thraldom of the senses and the body. Yes, there's a tremendous feeling of kind of a joy. The moment you feel, due to some kind of, sometimes drugs, sometimes medication, sometimes a little drowsiness, you don't feel the body for a while. And then when you don't feel the body, it's so relaxing. Yes. Suddenly you're freed from this kind of storm that's going out here. So that is what the Lord is trying to tell us. That happiness is there. Yes, the real happiness is called liberation. You have come freedom from all these bondages, and that comes through the control of the sensory system. And how does that happen? That comes, you need to put in a little effort to pull back, and only then through wisdom does real peace and real happiness come. Because when we are kind of feeling drowsy or kind of a lassitude, a torpor, and or kind of some medicines or some kind of drugs or something that we have taken, and we are feeling kind of, we are feeling so nice and easy and peaceful. But that is kind of temporary. When you get the same feeling permanently through wisdom, there you are established. So this is what. So your wisdom will give you a clarity, yes, and that will bring peace and that will bring happiness. So much for this verse. We could go on and on and on and on, but then we can kind of take the next verse, which is a continuation of this same verse, in a way. Page 267 verse. I'll read the translation first. Just as a gale pushes away a ship on the waters, the mind that yields to the roving senses carries away the person's wisdom. The word used is discrimination. It should be actually wisdom. Prajna. That's the word. So, there are two things. Obviously, the illustration is given of a boat in the water, and there's a storm that has arisen. You think any captain will have it easy? Oh, there's a storm. There's no problem. Of course, you can't keep quiet, but then we have one instance. Swami Satyamayananda, Sharat Maharaj, who wrote the Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. So he was on a country boat and along with passengers, and he was sitting down, and they were going from one bank to the other, because that was the kind of, there was no bridges then, so they were traveling. And the storm arose. This happened on the river Ganga, the Ganges. The storm rose. It was already, the water was already choppy, and then there was a wind kind of rising, and then it really hit. And the people were terrified, the other co-passengers were terrified. And the helmsman was kind of doing all his best to kind of keep the boat afloat. And Swami Satyamayananda was sitting coolly, sitting on the boat, and in the old days he had a hookah, he was smoking that hookah. And they are getting more annoyed looking at him. He's cool. They're saying, how can you smoke like this when we are going to die? Well, will shouting save you from death? No. Stay cool, stay calm. And that other co-passenger was so furious, he takes that hookah and throws it in the water. So he was calm and collected and undisturbed. Fortunately, the storm passed and they were saved, obviously. So the boat on the waters, Vayur Nava Iva Ambasi, like the boat. Okay, Nava is the word navy. All these things have come from that. So when the boat is on the water, what's the water then? Illustration. It's the mind. So the mind is kind of whipped, and the boat is at wisdom, and it is kind of, it's being tossed about here and there. Well, suppose the boat was on land, it was taken and kept on the land. Well, nothing would have happened to the boat. The boat wouldn't have rocked. The boat won't drown. That's the mind that has attained stability. So that is the illustration that's given. So it's saying the senses, indriyanam, hicharatam, that is the wandering. The senses wander. Obviously, we hear a sound and the whole mind goes there. We hear a sound and then we look at that. The mind is dragged by the senses. Even if one sense organ is active, the mind is kind of bubbles through that senses outside. That's what kind of very strange. It just cannot stay away from that. That's because from the very beginning you are said, how are you, and this and that. You are taken as a kind of a unit. Your senses, your body, your mind is you. Who told you all that? You have to make a kind of distinction. My real me, the other day we were reading Swami Shivananda, Mahapurush Maharaj's reminiscences. So a person comes and says, how is your body? In India we say, how is your body? We don't say, how are you? So this person, how are you? How is your body? He's saying, oh, you are talking about my body? Your body is okay, this like. But I'm fine. My body is old and sick and all, but I'm fine. And by Sri Ramakrishna's grace, he has given me this knowledge that I am separate from my body. This is what it is. We have got so used to this idea that I am this body, and I am this mind, and I am this sensory system, and I am the soul. That's why in India we say, he has given up the body. And you are saying he has given up the ghost. He has given up the spirit. What? How is that? It's kind of exactly opposite. Swami Vivekananda remarks on this. So you are the soul, you have given up the body. And here you are the body, you have given up the spirit. There are two kind of different ideals placed before humanity. What are you? So as you keep on slowly controlling your senses, you will suddenly find, my God, the mind is a distinct entity, the senses are a distinct entity, the body is just a distinct entity, and the soul is distinct, completely different, has got nothing to do with all the stupid things that this guy is doing. But through ignorance, that person has attached himself or herself to this. And so many books have been written on what is the soul and what is the spirit and what is the ghost and what is the this and what is the that and what is consciousness. It's totally different from what you think about. Yeah. So, the mind has been used, has been educated through error to follow these senses. The senses go out and the mind runs towards that. It's kind of enmeshed. So what happens is, the moment you keep a kind of a tight rein on these senses, you pull back, no going there. You're sitting down to meditate and then you think about what's going on today at the LA Philharmonic. Well, and then the mind goes there also and keeps on. I should have gone there instead of stupid, I've been meditating like that. God, what is this rubbish? And during the whole meditation, he's listening to the LA Philharmonic Orchestra. And then so I had a nice meditation. Yeah. So what happens is, from this you can see that the senses are here, but the mind is thinking of something else. There is already a kind of a disconnection, but we are so used. If the mind is strong enough, it'll say, push, get up from their meditation. What meditation? I've known what is meditation. Come on, get up. You've done enough. Let's go to listen to the orchestra. And that's what happens. So these kind of entities are separate, yet they have become unified because of my own misperception or my own lack of knowledge. So when one of the sensory system runs out, as it were, the mind also follows in its wake. That's what he's saying. Just the gale pushes away a ship on the waters, the mind that yields to the roving senses carries away a person's wisdom. Yes. And this is what? So, carries away what? Yeah, that boat is your wisdom. And the boat is now in storm-tossed waters. And that's the reason why we don't have that kind of insight, we don't have that knowledge about ourselves, about the world, about reality. When we look out and there is no kind of what divinity and what God and what Ishvara and what Brahman and all this kind of rubbish. Yeah, what is this? Because the person is now sense-bound. And the sense-bound person is not much different from an animal. Simple as that. Well, animals also, they live in their senses. Yeah, all their life is in the senses, and they are happy. If they get food, they are very happy. If they don't get food, oh God. Yeah, it's terrible. They have terrible time. They also have feelings. But so what's the fundamental difference between them who live in the senses and us? Knowledge. Jnanam tu tad adhiko vishesho. This is human beings and kind of the animals are kind of same. Ahara, nidra, bhaya, maitunam. That is eating, sleep, and sex. Ahara, nidra, bhaya, and fear. These things are common to human beings and animals alike. But what distinguishes us from them is dharmam or jnanam. Knowledge or dharma distinguishes us from that. So this is what draws you away from your lower self and raises you up. And that's the reason why every religion gives a kind of an ethical code. Practice this. It will do you good. Why should I do that? I'm not bothered. And then that person reduces himself or herself down to that level. That's the lowest stage of humanity. And we have evolved into higher and higher things, but yet we want to go back to those old ways. So we need to evolve into gods. So these senses are kind of being running out, bubbling out as it were. The mind follows this. And along with that, your wisdom also goes along with that. Yeah, if it goes in the ditch, your wisdom goes in the ditch. If your wisdom goes in the gutter, there it is gone. And you'll speak greatly about gutters and ditches and sewers and all these things. Your mind is there, it's gone there. All your wisdom, all your knowledge is there. So, why does it happen like that? So there was one very famous novelist whom Sri Ramakrishna met, who people laud as a great. So Sri Ramakrishna asked, what's the goal of human life? Oh, eat, drink and be merry. What? Sri Ramakrishna, what you think, you become. And he gives the example, if you eat radish, you will belch radish. So simple as that. So how do you counter all these things? Because the senses are very strong, the mind is very strong. It will have to be countered on the wisdom of the Atman. Hear about it, think about it, and slowly the mind is weaned away from that. There is a higher ideal, there is a higher life, and the senses which were kind of rambling about, now kind of they have a kind of a controlling power over it. Oh, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't look like that. I shouldn't speak like that. Slowly, that ethical sense dawns. No, I shouldn't. This is what kind of weans one's senses away. And this, why are ethics given to us? Why are they prescribed? Because it leads to knowledge and wisdom. Simple as that. It is not for the sake of do good and be good for what? This doing good and being good is a means to attain something. It's not an end in itself. Why should I be good? Yeah, because this is the means for a higher life. And that is what is the teachings of every scripture. But this kind of puts it very graphically. Like a boat, the wisdom is tossed in the waters. Yeah, what's that water is a mind. And what's that gale or the storm that's blowing? It's all what the senses have brought from outside and are constantly bringing. This is the storm. So how do you stop it? Yeah, you can stop this storm. So sea is like in the Bible is there, no? When everybody are frightened, like the storm rising and hey, we are going to get drowned. Like I think is there, and then Jesus was fast asleep. Nice. Everybody is worried they're going to get drowned, and this guy is nicely sleeping. And they say, wake up, what happened? See, what? We're going to get drowned, we're going to get killed. Oh, he gets up, stop. And the winds and everything just fell silent. Everything was calm. So that's what. You have the power within yourself to calm that inner storm. You've got to take the first step. I have the capacity, I have that power to do that. Why I'm not utilizing it is a mystery. Okay. Because we always know, people know about us in a kind of a particular way. They have kind of put us into a kind of a framework. This is Diane and this is Diane, okay. And people interact with you in that framework. But Diane knows she is more than what appears as Diane. That's important. Every one of us understands this, that we are more than what people think about us. What is that? That is that kind of consciousness which is there, which understands that, yeah, what is being displayed outside, what is being read by people is just a small part of me. I am bigger. And that's why people say, we can't understand people. That person cannot understand me, I cannot understand that person. Why? That's because we read the person only this much. And we base all our value judgments and all these things on this much. And we kind of put a stamp on that, there, forever. This is how we conduct ourselves. But you know you are more than what appears to others as well as to you. Yes, even I feel at times, all of us feel, that I am much greater than what I think about myself. Yeah, sometimes feeling tired or lazy. No, it's kind of, I can do that. What's that? There's a bigger part of me which I need to activate. And the moment I activate it, then these things become extremely easy. We'll take the next one, 68. Therefore, O mighty armed, his cognition is well poised, whose senses are completely restrained from their objects. So therefore, O mighty armed, this mighty armed is Arjuna talking about. The person's cognition is well poised. Cognition is everything, everything is poised. Whose senses are completely restrained from the objects. You see, what happens is, in Indian languages and in Sanskrit especially, the objects, they are called a Vishaya, but also Indriya Artha. Artha is meaning. This gives meaning to my senses. That is the word meaning, Shabdartha. And why do my senses even go out They're stupid. They should have stayed inside. Yeah, isn't it? No, but what happens is all these things give my senses meaning. And that's why I want to seek meaning. What's the meaning of life? Yeah, this is the meaning. All these things are meaning. It makes my life meaningful. Imagine if I wasn't with any kind of senses, my life would be meaningless. So, when the moment the senses go out, they go towards their meaning. They go towards the purpose of the senses. The vision is to see, and when I see, it gives meaning to this. So all objects are called Indriya Artha. Wonderful, kind of very philosophy. This can go on and on and on and on. It's a great kind of word. Some words are kind of so great. So, tasmad yasya mahabhavo nigrihitani sarvasah indriyan indriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. That person's wisdom is firmly established. When? So when the senses detach from their meanings. But then there's no meaning in life? No. There's a greater meaning there. These guys have been misdirected. The very reason, the very meaning of your life is because of your soul. And you have forgotten the whole thing. You take your soul out and then there's nothing remains. They're saying, okay, it's just a kind of a corpse now. Yes. Yeah. The very thing that gives meaning to everything that has been neglected. So here he said, tasmad, therefore, Mahabhavo, that is Arjuna, you have been able to, mighty armed. He has been able to conquer all external enemies successfully. So he's trying to raise his morale up, kind of trying to encourage the person. You are strong, it's not a weak person there. And that's what Vedanta says, you already have that strength there. Why do you think that this is impossible for me? You have not awakened that strength. So here, the Lord is awakening that kind of sense, that awakening that consciousness there. You have that power, you have the strength. So he's saying, tasmad, therefore, yasya. So now, for whom? We are talking about a person who wants what? The person wants to extricate himself or herself from this level, go to the next, and from the next to go to the next. And it's meant for this person. I had enough of this. And the moment you know and you feel, I have had enough of this. I'm kind of a slave to everything. Slave to a good word, like Swami, slave to a bad word, slave to something. You're a slave. And then once you understand, God, slave to a little good food and this and that, and slave to a little color and sight and sounds. And is that life? No. A person suddenly becomes, no, there has to be something more than this kind of slavery. And then person wants to get away from this slavery. And it is natural, we don't like to enslave ourselves. And we have made a mistake, we have enslaved ourselves for a few dollars more. As they say, for a few dollars more. We enslaved ourselves for a few dollars. Yeah. And with that enslavement has come abuse. Everything. Oh, you are such a stupid person. Okay? And I have to work in the sun and the rain and the hurling abuse and verbal abuse and all types of kind of stupid things are hurled at me. Why? Because I want those kind of few dollars, and I've become a slave to all these things. So, saying, Nigrihitani sarvasha. In their totality, this person, the person who wants to come out of slavery, controls Nigrihitani. Everything, sarvasha. In their totality, the mind as well as the senses. Get back. Enough. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. Simple as that. Quiet. And if that person, if the mind and senses keep on kind of bringing old things, give it a nice whacking. Nowadays, of course, corporal punishment in schools is disallowed, it's kind of illegal. When we were young, we had a teachers, nice teachers, we loved them, and they used to whack us nicely. Where did you go? Yeah, and then, the teachers come, be careful, quiet. Because like good boys and good students, we used to sit down. So, your mind and senses needs a little whacking. Don't be so soft, you say, no. And that's what the heroic person, that great, the mighty armed, is a kind of heroic person. That person, he's not going to be, he or she is not going to be soft. I'm going to pull this thing out. So, tasmadhyasya mahabhava, pulling this. From where? From the sense objects. Withdrawing the senses and the mind from the sense objects, that person's wisdom becomes established. And this is why is this kind of wisdom? Yeah, that's the goal of human life. That's the goal of every life, not only human life. Humans can attain it much more quickly. Saying why? Like Swami Vivekananda says, like a cow does not steal, does not tell lies. But it's a long way from the cow realizing the Atman. A person steals, tells lies, commits mistakes, commits all these things, and yet there is a tremendous chance for this person to attain the highest, because both the forces of good and bad are molding us constantly, and we are in the midst of this kind of churning. You are sitting quietly and a thought pops on, all your peace, all your quiet and all your prayers and everything goes away. And when you are in the midst of a kind of a storm, suddenly you remember something, you become calm. We are constantly being churned. We are making mistakes, we are falling down, once again getting up, once again walking, falling down again. So Swami Vivekananda say, you fall down 10,000 times, you get up 10,000 times. That's the idea. So don't sprawl on the ground and say, the Lord, my God, will save me, lift me up. Get up. That the whole purpose of Vedanta is depend on yourself first. So you see, people are saying, I'm waiting for a miracle. And the miracle will happen, don't worry. Well, it could have been easy if you would have got up by yourself. So, yes, we are making mistakes. We are the result, Swami would say, of the infinite past stacked upon our souls, of all the good things and the bad things we have done. So we have come to this point when we can now discern where we need to go. Now it's here, not here. It's here inside. It's not here anymore. Because this is the world of the senses. And here you go in deeper and deeper, you will find wisdom there. And the more you go towards, the more wisdom will shine and shine and shine. And it is wisdom that breaks all bondages. So they're saying, do you need a cup of tea or a glass, or you want a hammer, or you want some sword, or you some... No, nothing. In Vedanta it is very clear. It is knowledge which liberates us. So what about this bondage? That's what. You've been looking in the wrong direction. There, outside. So don't we have to take off all those chains and all those various samskaras, those impressions, and those deep-seated vasanas, those deep-seated, that which give rise to a new body? No. Just pursue knowledge, and all the chains and all those impressions and all the stupid things that you had accumulated are burnt. They vanish for you. And that is what wisdom does. And that is, very strangely, it is your own nature. Why don't you understand this? They say, is I have to attain wisdom, there is something different from me and the wisdom. No! It is your own nature. So you will be going towards it, you will be attaining your own real nature. And that is what will be the final, you can say, culmination. I know. I am knowledge. I know, I am knowledge. I am wisdom. I don't have to speak anything. And if I have to speak, I'll speak something wise only. Because all those delusive layers over my mind and senses have been removed off. And I see myself as liberated, as free. We stop here for today. The next class is, I think, on the 20th. So we take the 69th, which you are coming towards the end of this second chapter on the yoga of knowledge. It's this section is in reply to Arjuna's question. How does a person of steady wisdom, how does he behave? How does he or she walk, talk? How does the person internally thinks? So these are the kind of clarifications the Lord is giving. So do you have any questions? We have 2 minutes.
I know that, am I the doer or am I not the doer? Within that idea, are we talking about an inner-directed person or an outer-directed person? Or to find our way from being outer-directed and misdirected, finding that inner direction? Or psychology?
Yesterday, I think I was talking about there are philosophies in India. In fact, there are 3 philosophies in India. They are these old logicians, the Nyayikas. Nyaya is knowledge. Those who use just reasoning to understand the world and understand the reality also. And aligned with them are those what you call is the atomist, Vaisheshikas. That is, the whole world is made out of atoms, It's a clumping of atoms. They have their own philosophy. And the philosophers of the earlier section of the Vedas, Mimamsakas, they say the self is an doer, an agent. Okay. So Vedanta comes and says, dismisses all these things. How can you have so many agents? How many agencies you want? You have one agency. That itself is enough. Okay, that's a central intelligence agency. There's only one, and that belongs to that impersonal God. Okay, so what is there in you? You are actually an impersonal, you can say, thing that has kind of become confined in a space and are thinking of yourself as I am the doer. The moment you say I am the doer, I am the enjoyer also comes in, because you are going to experience what? Pleasure and pain. So, the moment you say I am the doer, you are going to experience pleasure and pain. The moment you say I am not the doer, pleasure and pain just follow. And what you attain is that divine element which is not a doer. The highest stage is to be, not to do. One nun was asking me in Santa Barbara. So I was sitting down and I spent a whole day sitting down. Then they're saying, what did you do the whole day? I said, that's a problem with you people. Why should I do anything? Why can't I just be? And then she got it. Oh, and she was so thrilled. Yeah. So the idea of doership is always that with that, I have to do this, I have to do that. At one stage of life, you give up that doership business. It's bad business. And just be yourself. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.